it is a thrilling spectacle in its own right.
When this project first came to you, what was it that initially really sparked with you that made you excited about taking it on?
First and foremost, even before I read the script, it's like Gus Van Sant has this film and he wants you for it. So that was like, whoa, really? It's very flattering to even be on the radar of some of our great filmmakers. So that was very cool. And then I read the script and I thought the script was great. There was a lot of links in the script of the actual recordings of Tony and sort of like, here's the press conference and the link to the YouTube, video of the actual press conference. So there was also a hesitation of me going like, okay, I don't feel like, I don't look like this guy. So like, if you want to reenact this story, of course you wouldn't cast me for it. So there was hesitation involved in that. And then I was like, why and it was sort of my research in the real guy was kind of getting in the way of just, performing the character for the movie. But that was sort of a journey I had to go through. And, the real Tony was sort of my central focus in the early stages of the prepping. And then once we showed up on set, the sort of created Tony that is in the film, he started dictating the action and the film, so yeah, there was a lot of different sort of components for why I was drawn to it, but it was a great, complex, complicated, fun character and a great filmmaker, and just a kind of a style of like a movie I'm not sure if I've done before. I'm obsessed with movies from the 70s, like Network or Dog Day Afternoon. I mean, just to mention a few that's kind of good, fail safe or whatever, any Sidney Lumet movie really. But like, it was also just like the time, the period, America in the 70s. I don't know. There was a lot of it that just spoke to me.
When you were filming the movie, did you have a sense of it feeling political at all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Luigi Mangione murder happened a month before we started shooting, so we were already gearing up to shoot, and we were like, okay, shit, I think that case is very, it's very different, but there's a lot of parallels to the 70s and today, there's like this kind of, this feeling, this loss of trust and faith in the government and in institutions and sort of economically troubling times and um, and yeah, and this kind of populist sort of revolt that's going on. This story could have easily happened today. So I don't think it's a good thing that that those parallels are there, but they are, and the problems are real. So I think that, you know, I don't think that this movie is like trying to make like a political statement. I don't think great movies try to make statements in that way, really. But like, it's a comment on society, that's for sure, and ostracized people and people that that do feel like a system is rigged against them sometimes, you know, do violent things. They're cornered and they act violently. And there's this kind of like David and Goliath kind of thing of like the man against the little guy against the man and the system, Um, and I think is why we're drawn to these stories generally, but there's definitely political parallels to it.
You mentioned the Luigi Mangione murder. Like, it feels like that happened like ages ago at this stage. I'm curious, like, like I mean, which is just a sign of how everything feels like it's moving so fast. I'm curious,
Yeah.
like, has your perspective on the movie changed from filming it to like right now as we're talking about it?
Yeah, I remember there was a kind of a discourse when that happened of like, okay, now civil war is around, like that people sort of predicted that these things would start happening now and like copycats and like now everybody would go after, mortgage brokers or health insurance companies or whatever it is. And that didn't happen. So I remember like, yes, the media cycle is just changing so rapidly that like, you know every single week there's a new sort of doomsday narrative of like this has happened, you know what I mean? And then and then next week it just pivots into something else. So in that sense, yeah, it was like, but it's not like, we've also had, assassinations in America and political assassinations, like Charlie Kirk thing. I mean, it's just, we're not through it, whatever we're going through, we're still going through it, and uh, I think it's getting increasingly harder to predict where it's going. It feels like it's changing a lot, but the story works without the political, connotations to it. It's just like it's the the sort of Chekhov gun loaded and wired to a protagonist's neck and to the other protagonist's neck. I mean, it is a thrilling spectacle in its own right, but certainly there are the political parallels, and I don't know. I mean, I think it could be like it would sort of like be interesting to like you have people to go see the film and then like people get into an argument about like you know, like I know I think I'm with Tony in this. Like fuck those guys, and someone could like how dare you? I mean, like Dick was so he has a family and like you know what I mean. Like maybe there's an argument to be had afterwards, and something will people will learn something or discover something in that that'd be good.
How do you feel this movie ultimately reflects on the concept of the little guy versus the machine?
I just think it's there. I think that's what the story is like, someone that feels like they've never had a platform, they've never been listened to, but they've worked their ass off their entire life and they've been promised this kind of, pot of gold at the end of it, right? I mean, there's sort of a pipe dream that's being sold that like work hard and you get rewarded. What's kind of ironic with Tony is that he's not like a leftist or anything. He's kind of a capitalist in his own right, and I think he sort of, I mean, I think he just feels like he deserves what Al Pacino's characters have. It's like, no, I have worked hard and I'm smart and I've invested, and this thing that I was building was going to explode and you guys took it all from me. That's how he feels. And Whether or not that's true or not, that if emotionally it was true for him. And of course the fact that even the fact that you have mortgage brokers and these kind of shady loaners and like it's a very perilous system for someone that is not college educated or comes from money, to try to build something. There's a lot of traps that you can fall into where you feel like this sort of American dream was sold to me, but it was fake, and there's a whole system here that's kind of rigged to people staying in their in the classes that they're born into. You know what I mean? Um, and that I think is true. That I think is true. That doesn't mean that I mean we all love the story of like the self-made poor man or poor woman who makes of course they're inspiring, but you need to have sort of, I mean, I come from Sweden, which is a country that has is sort of has much more of sort of an equal opportunity for all of its citizens, where like you can fuck up and still you get a lot of second and third and fourth chances and such. And yeah, I don't know where I'm on a rant, but you know what I'm saying. It's just
Yeah.
I think that that's all there. It's worth considering. I certainly don't have all the answers of it, but where we are in the world is it certainly could be improved, is what I'm saying.